George Ivanovich Gurdjieff is one of the 20th century's most enigmatic spiritual figures. Was he a mystic, a philosopher, a hypnotist, or a brilliant provocateur? The truth resists simple answers. This program is brought to you by the Series of Thoughts team as part of the Fascinating Folk series. Gurdjieff's early life is shrouded in mystery. Born around 1866 in Russian Armenia, his origins are obscured, perhaps deliberately. This cultural crossroads, rich with Christian, Sufi, and ancient traditions, deeply shaped his spiritual seeking. Between 1887 and 1912, Gurdjieff claimed to have traveled extensively across Central Asia, Tibet, and the Middle East, studying with secret brotherhoods like the Sarmang. He offered no concrete proof of these, quote, lost years, leading many to wonder if his origin story was an elaborate synthesis of teachings. His biographical ambiguity was pedagogical. Gurdjieff wanted students to focus on the teaching, not on worshipping his credentials. As he often said, "The worse your opinion of me, the better." Gurdjieff claimed sources like the Sarmang Brotherhood, which preserved knowledge through sacred dances. His methods also showed clear Sufi influences, including the use of shock, paradox, and the practice of, quote, remembering oneself. In 1912, Gurdjieff emerged in Moscow and St. Petersburg with a fully formed system. He attracted intellectuals by demonstrating movements, playing haunting music, and presenting a system for transformation. He rejected belief, insisting that students must, quote, trust but verify everything through experience. Gurdjieff possessed a magnetic presence. Students felt seen through by his piercing observation. His unpredictable energy and hypnotic music kept them constantly alert, forcing them to confront their own mechanical nature. The stop exercise was highly controversial. Gurdjieff would shout "stop," and students had to freeze instantly. Many reported a sensation of their will being completely overridden, forcing a direct confrontation with the question of who or what is actually in control. Gurdjieff's musical compositions, co-created with Thomas de Hartmann, were teaching tools. These ancient-sounding melodies bypassed the intellectual mind, working directly on emotional and instinctual centers to invoke specific states of consciousness. Gurdjieff's fourth way proposed that humanity lives in, quote, waking sleep. Unlike the traditional ways of the fakir, monk, or yogi, the fourth way could be practiced while remaining engaged with ordinary life, developing the physical, emotional, and intellectual centers simultaneously. Gurdjieff mapped the, quote, human machine into three centers: moving, emotional, and intellectual. He taught that these centers rarely work in harmony, leading to wrong work that drains energy. The goal was harmonious, conscious functioning. A disturbing insight was the, quote, illusion of unity. Gurdjieff insisted we are a multiplicity of shifting I's, not a unified self. Identification, considering, imagination, and lying keep us lost in this mechanical state. The first tool for awakening is self-observation without judgment. This practice requires divided attention, simultaneously engaging in life while maintaining a witnessing awareness. This reveals our mechanicality and is the foundation of all real work. Gurdjieff emphasized the necessity of conscious suffering, voluntarily accepting the friction required for growth. This involves going against habit, accepting unpleasant truths about oneself, and making, quote, super efforts to access hidden energy reserves. The Enneagram, a 9-pointed symbol, was taught as a universal law, encoding the law of 3 and the law of 7. It shows where conscious effort must be applied in any process to prevent deviation or failure. The sacred movements, or sacred gymnastics, were intricate sequences designed to transmit knowledge non-verbally. They forced the body's centers to work together, developing divided attention and conscious presence. The movements served to overcome habitual movement, harmonize the centers, and embody universal laws. They transformed the body into an instrument for consciousness, often leading to profound internal experiences. Gurdjieff claimed the movements derived from ancient dances witnessed during his travels. They function as a form of moving meditation, creating a body-based practice compatible with modern life, and are still taught globally today. The Russian Revolution shattered Gurdjieff's work. From 1917, he led a large group of students on a harrowing flight south through war zones in the Caucasus. He used these extreme, real-life conditions as intense opportunities for the work. After escaping, Gurdjieff spent time in Constantinople and briefly in Berlin. This period of exile demonstrated his adaptability, teaching students how to maintain internal stability regardless of external chaos. In 1922, Gurdjieff established the Institute for the Harmonious Development of Man at the Château du Prieuré in France. It was a total immersion environment, where communal life and demanding labor served the aim of awakening consciousness. Daily life at the Prieuré was rigorous, starting with physical labor at dawn. Gurdjieff deliberately disrupted routines to prevent complacency, ensuring that every activity, from gardening to movements practice, required conscious effort. The study house was a special space for the movements, decorated with aphorisms like, "Remember yourself always and everywhere." Here, students pushed past exhaustion and were exposed to Gurdjieff's most profound teaching methods, including the stop exercise. Acclaimed writer Catherine Mansfield spent her final months at the Prieuré, dying of tuberculosis in 1923. She sought a conscious way to meet her death, finding peace and meaning in the demanding atmosphere, which sparked controversy. Gurdjieff cultivated a rascal guru persona, deliberately creating contradictions. He could be compassionate or harsh, teaching profound truths while drinking alcohol. This was meant to force students to develop their own discrimination rather than blindly following his authority. His methods included intentional humiliation, such as public embarrassment or impossible demands, and emotional shocks. These were designed to break down the false personality and force students to observe their mechanical reactions. Gurdjieff operated restaurants as laboratories for observation and student training. Serving customers and managing friction became practice, demonstrating the fourth way principle of using ordinary life for development. Notorious driving lessons, often fast and dangerous, were another method. The fear induced a heightened state of presence, forcing a temporary cessation of internal chatter. His near-fatal crash in 1924, however, marked a major shift in his teaching focus. Gurdjieff worked with a core group of collaborators who helped preserve his teaching. These dedicated students endured his rigorous methods because they recognized something genuine beneath the controversial surface. P.D. Ouspensky became Gurdjieff's primary intellectual bridge. His detailed notes formed the basis of In Search of the Miraculous. However, Ouspensky eventually split from Gurdjieff in 1924, disturbed by his methods, and taught the system independently. Composer Thomas de Hartmann transcribed Gurdjieff's music, creating over 200 sacred compositions. He and his wife Olga, whose memoirs offer key insights into Prieuré life, were devoted collaborators who preserved the musical aspect of the teaching. Jeanne de Salzmann, a dancer, was appointed by Gurdjieff to continue his work. Until her death in 1990, she served as the primary guardian of his legacy, ensuring the authenticity and transmission of the movements and training new teachers. Other notable figures include editor A.R. Orridge, who brought the teaching to America, and writers like René Dommel. Psychiatrist Maurice Nicole and scientist J.G. Bennett also helped interpret and spread Gurdjieff's ideas. After his 1924 accident, Gurdjieff shifted his focus to writing. He produced 3 major works, deliberately making his text challenging, or burying the bone, to force readers to work for understanding. His magnum opus, Beelzebub's Tales to His Grandson, is a 1,200-page allegory presenting Gurdjieff's cosmology through a science fiction framework. The dense, complex style was intentional, designed to work on the reader's consciousness. Other works include Meetings with Remarkable Men, a semi-autobiographical adventure, and the unfinished Life is Real Only Then When I Am, which offered practical insights. Views from the Real World compiles early talks. Gurdjieff spent his final years in Paris, teaching small, intimate groups over elaborate dinners, which he called his, quote, toast to the idiots. He died on October 29, 1949, at the age of 83. 7 decades later, Gurdjieff's influence endures through over 40 foundations worldwide. His 200 musical compositions and unique methods continue to be taught, preserving his work for new generations of serious seekers. Gurdjieff's ideas have reverberated culturally, influencing art, film, and literature. Concepts like multiple selves and identification have permeated psychology, and his fourth way impacted philosophical inquiries into consciousness and existence. Gurdjieff's central premise, that humanity is asleep, remains relevant. The fourth way is an invitation to work intentionally, using the friction of ordinary life as the laboratory for genuine awakening. The question remains, are you willing to wake up?